One of my most popular videos I've ever made was on a chicken biryani dish with over 140 million views. Now controversially, I did a tomato version, which isn't particularly common in a lot of the world. But today I thought we'd take a deep dive into one of my more favorite dishes, the Hyderabadi biryani. Let's get stuck in. So the first thing we're gonna need is a lot of crispy onions. For that, we're gonna need a lot of really thinly sliced onions. Now you can do it with a knife, the traditional way, or you can do it with a mandolin, keeps it more consistent. Just be careful because these things take fingers off. Still gets the best of us. All right, time to fry the onions. Medium, sort of low heat. You don't want this too hot because you want time for the caramelization to develop, and you want to use a lot of oil. Vegetable oil, and you're kind of shallow frying them. So that's about 2 centimeters deep there. Let that come up to temperature, and then we'll get these onions in there. So once your oil's at sort of a medium-low temperature, you don't want it kind of raging hot. You probably want to do 2 or 3 batches, otherwise you overcrowd the pan. Now just keep them moving. Don't walk away from this or you'll have brown onions. You don't want that. The great thing about this dish is that it's really easy to cook for a lot of people and pretty affordable too. You know, you can use chicken drumsticks, which are really affordable. You can just leave the meat out altogether if you really wanted to. Other than that, you've got rice, onions, a whole bunch of spices and some yogurt. So it's not that expensive to cook for a lot of people. So at this point you can see the water's evaporated. There's lost a lot of volume from the onions, and this is where you need to pay really close attention because things start to happen pretty quickly here. All right, so we've got a lined tray, some paper towel that we can turn our onions out onto, and take them out just before you think they're good enough because they'll keep cooking. All right, time to rinse and repeat with the rest of our onions. So we'll let those cool and we'll get our chicken marinating. Okay, to marinate the chicken, we're gonna marinate it in the dish that we're gonna cook the biryani in because I like to save dishes. We have 1 kilo of chicken thighs skin off. Now you can use chicken drumsticks, work really well. You can buy a whole chicken and break it down, works really well as well. But I do think it's probably worthwhile getting something on the bone. It's a bit more fiddly when you're eating it, but I think it's worthwhile. To start, yogurt. Then chili powder. This is Kashmiri chili powder. If you can't get Kashmiri, normal stuff will do. Turmeric. Garam masala, you can make your own or just use a shop bought like this. Ginger paste. A little bit of garlic. Juice of a lemon. Green chili. Just simply slice, leave the seeds in. Cinnamon stick. Some green cardamom pods. We're gonna go, say, 6. We're gonna go 8, and we're just gonna lightly crush them. Cumin seeds. 4 cloves. Salt. And this is where we start layering in herbs. So I've got some mint, just roughly chopped. And of course, coriander. And last but definitely not least, about 1/3 or just more than 1/3 of our onions that we just fried up. Give that a good mix around. Make sure all the chicken is completely covered and your spices are evenly distributed. And then we're gonna marinate it. So you can marinate this for 24 hours in the fridge. You can marinate it for an hour, just at room temp if you really wanted to. But I suggest that you do it for at least 4 hours, if not 24 hours. But yeah, really work the chicken around because you want some of all those spices and everything to be nice and evenly distributed. Clean down your sides so that marinade's all in there. Chuck the lid on and we'll pop it in the fridge for 4 hours. Our chicken has been in the fridge for 3 hours. It's time to start getting our rice. Now, you want an aged basmati rice. Very important. Should be like a nice color like this, kind of goldeny brown almost, nice long grain, and that's how we get those really nice singular grains at the end dish. First up, we need to wash it into a large bowl and over to the sink. So cold water, And we're gonna rinse it 2 times. So the third amount of water, we're gonna leave it in there and we're gonna let it soak for 35 to 40 minutes. Once our biryani is layered, we're actually gonna pour over some saffron milk. So I've got some warm milk here and we're pretty simply gonna steep some saffron in it. If you can't get saffron or it's a little bit out of your budget, just use some turmeric in place. When we are cooking the biryani, we really need to make sure we seal the lid tightly and it keeps all the steam in and steams everything nicely. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can put a tea towel underneath, or you can make a little dough, long piece of dough to go around the outside. This is a little bit more work, but it's kind of theatrical as well. And I think if you're having friends over, doing this kind of looks pretty cool. Putting it to the table, pull the dough off, serve it up. Some flour into a bowl. We're not trying to make anything that's really going to be edible, so don't stress too much. Water in the middle and bring it together. So you want a pretty workable dough. You don't want too dry or too wet. So we're going to have to roll it out like a big log. If it's too wet, it'll kind of, when the steam hits it, it'll kind of melt away almost. All right, we get it to a shaggy mess like this, and we can start kneading it with our hands. It's a bit sticky, just dust your board with some flour. I think where the dough came from was before, when this was made a long time ago and they were cooking over open coal, you kind of didn't want to put a tea towel on it because obviously the tea towel would catch fire, and tea towels probably weren't that common back then either. So this is kind of a common technique used in a few different cultures. If you want to seal a pot properly, pull a few really inexpensive ingredients together. So we'll roll this out into a long batten basically, and then we can let it rest and we'll do the final part once we've got everything layered up, and it gives it time for the dough to relax and it's kind of easier to work. Cool. Leave that in the bowl until we need it. Large pot with a lid of boiling water. It's about just over half full. We're just going to season that with a little bit of salt, and then we're going to flavor it. Some green cardamom, a green chili in half, cinnamon stick, 2 cloves, some cumin seeds. So when you're doing stuff like this, it's all about layering flavors. So anytime we can add flavor to the equation, we will. So we're obviously going to blanch our rice in this. So by adding these additional aromats, all we're doing is layering flavor. So our rice has been soaking. We'll drain as much water off as we can. All right, let's get it cooked. So we're going to put our temperature on hot, because as soon as this rice goes in, it's going to drop the temperature. So we're going to be really careful. I can't emphasize this enough. I'm going to cook this rice till it's just cooked. It's like really al dente. It's still got a bit of bite in there, but it's still going to cook once we layer it with our chicken in the final dish. Give it one little stir, and then get the lid on. Basically, we're looking for this to come up to the simmer again. Once it's come up to the simmer, we can probably check it because it's probably ready. This really won't take long. You're talking, 4 or 5 minutes, I'd say max. All right, we're just starting to see it start to boil. Just to be really careful at this point because we do not want to overcook this. Don't be afraid to take a grain out. Have a taste, not quite yet. Close though. All right, we're good. We're coming out. All right, time to get everything else ready and layer this bad boy. Chicken from the fridge, onto the heat. High temperature. So we're not trying to cook the chicken at this point. We're just trying to kind of start the process happening. We're going to do about 4 or 5 minutes on high temperature. We're going to keep stirring it pretty well, and then we're going to remove half the chicken and start the layering. Whew. That smells incredible. Right, so while our chicken is doing its thing over there, we'll get our little dough ready for the outside. So this dough is pretty wet. Use a bit of flour. Oh, very wet. And we're just trying to roll a big log that will be long enough. You can actually just stretch it. It'll be long enough to go around the whole of the pot. So I reckon that's enough. So that's good to go. You kind of want it a bit sticky, but you don't want to stick to the board when you need it. All right, time to start layering our biryani. So like I was saying, we're not here to cook the chicken, we're just here to kind of get it going, I guess. So I'm going to turn the heat off completely, and I'm going to pull out half of the chicken. So there's 6 big pieces in here. I'm going to pull out 3. A little bit of the gravy, not too much though. Okay, so we got 3 pieces left. We'll make sure they're spread evenly. Now we start layering. So we're gonna have 2 layers. So 2 layers of chicken, 2 layers of rice. Sorry, it's a bit chefy of me, but I'm just gonna clean up this pot. You probably don't need to do this, but we used to get told off if we didn't back when I was working for people in Europe. That's better. All right, now we've got a clean pot. We can continue on. So sprinkle our rice. See a cinnamon stick in there, just leave it, doesn't matter. Even the rice smells good, so fragrant. Just make sure it's nice and even. Okay, now add the chicken back in. Make sure you put all the sauce in there. Now we're gonna sprinkle some of our onions. This is like the best bit, the onions. Some coriander, mint, and a last layer of rice. Make sure it's nice and even. Got those chilies in there, we'll leave them in there. More flavor. Onions. More herbs. And our saffron milk. All right, it's time to seal this thing up. Lid on. And we'll seal it with our dough. And the other option is just to put like a really nice clean tea towel under the lid. That works just as well, to be perfectly honest. But I think this is the more traditional way. Could be wrong. Our biryani is nice and sealed. We're gonna go straight to maximum heat for 10 minutes. Then we're gonna turn it down, right down to really pretty low. So I'm gonna go like number 2 here on this induction, and we're gonna cook it for another 30 minutes. All right, she's been cooking for 40 minutes in total. We're gonna let it rest for 20 minutes before we crack her open. Time to crack her open. It's always a bit nerve-wracking breaking one of these open. I'm not used to not being able to see what I do as I'm cooking. There's no hiding it. So what we're looking for is nice individual grains of rice, chicken nicely cooked, and look at that. That is what we're after. Nice individual grains of rice. Let's see if this chicken's cooked. Oh yeah. Yum. Time to plate up. So on a big tray or something, and you kind of want to plate this up in layers, the way that it comes out of the pot, if that makes sense. Just going to finish with a little bit more coriander and mint. And there we have it. Hyderabadi biryani. Guess we better eat some. So, the most important part, what does it taste like? It's beautiful. It's fragrant, light, all those different flavors and aromats are coming through. Your rice is perfectly cooked. The chicken's still nice and moist. Yum. This is one dish that's definitely worth the hype, and there's really good reason why it's loved all around the world. It's really not that tricky to pull together, and it's one of those things that you just get better and better at making the more you do it. So make this one for your friends and family. They will love you for it. Thank you very much for watching, legends. Like if you took anything from this video, subscribe if you're not, and we'll see you next week for another recipe. Peace.